Hello friends, it's me, and today, meat sweats. Let's check out food theory. Are the meat sweats just a myth? From the food theorists. Together, let's go. Let's start. Thank you.
Man, I love Friends. It's one of my all-time favorites. Ooh, this part always kills me.
I'm done. Oh, here come the meat sweats.
Meat sweats. Ha! It's not like you could actually get, you know, right?
Food theory.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show that's about to put our meat where our mouth... Nope. Just heard it. But hey, what can I say? I like meat.
Yeah, that sounds pretty misleading. Hello Internet, welcome to Food Theory. Hi.
Me some meat. And that's an understatement. To put this into perspective, if someone tied me down and forced me to give up Coke for the rest of my life, it would be tough, but I could do it. Sour food, after the challenge I did with Josh, I would ditch that in a heartbeat. But meat? I could never give up the taste of sweet, juicy, succulent meat. I mean, I am a proud Argentinian. If I ever stopped eating beef, I think my ancestors would beat me over the head with the 3 World Cup trophies for the rest of my days. You get the idea. I'm a carnivore. And yes, that is why Amy and I may be BFFs, but we'll never be biffles. But with the holiday season fast approaching, that means there are more opportunities than ever to gorge myself on a honey-baked ham, a delicious ribeye, or maybe even that rare Whoville roast beast. But if you've ever eaten copious amounts of meat in one sitting before, you might have felt that strange heat across your face. Of course, I'm talking about the meat sweats. If you've never heard of this phenomenon before, supposedly, if you eat too much meat in one sitting, you start to get a little hot under the collar and start to sweat. And I say supposedly because, as much as I'm ashamed to admit it, I've never actually gotten the meat sweats before. I mean, sure, maybe a little bit hot, but not full-on sweating. So I decided that my new end-of-year goal is to collect my final badge from the Meat Scouts. Achieve the ultimate meat vana. I'm gonna try and induce the meat sweats. Hey, don't yuck my yum. We don't yuck yum. So get your handkerchiefs ready.
The editor be like, bruh, seriously? Serious?
And move your belts to the next loop, loyal theorists, as we find out if the meat sweats are really worth sweating over. Well, what are we waiting for? I want to get the meat sweats. You get meat sweats from eating meat. I say it's time for me to dive headfirst with reckless abandon. On second thought, it would be a bit crazy for me to jump in completely blind. I should probably do some research first. Where did this whole idea of getting sweaty from your meat come from in the first place? And there's actually no clear answer to where the term meat sweats originally comes from, but there is one person who is credited with catapulting the phrase into the mainstream. And that is Mr. How you doing? Himself, Joey Tribbiani from Friends. In the season 8 Thanksgiving episode released in 2001, Joey absolutely decimates an entire Thanksgiving turkey all by himself. It's actually fantastic. Monica doesn't want to get a turkey that year because Phoebe's a vegetarian, Chandler doesn't eat Thanksgiving food, and Rachel was having her aversion to poultry. But Joey convinces her and it's the whole thing. But as he sat there basking in his accomplishment, he says,
Bro, take the solo challenge way too seriously. Fine, I'll do it myself. Like Thanos.
Oh, here come the meat sweats.
And thus, the phrase meat sweats entered the global lexicon, later inspiring Arby's to team up with Old Spice for a meat sweat defense kit, complete with a full sweatsuit featuring Arby's nasty roast beef as a design. Yeah, eat your heart out, Lady Gaga. But like I said, Friends in all likelihood didn't invent the term meat sweats. So you might be surprised to hear that some TV show from the 90s and early 2000s could have had that big of an impact on our language. But if you weren't around during the time, it's hard for me to even put into words how big of a deal Friends was. It is one of my favorite series of all time, and I still cry like a baby every time I watch the series finale. And this Thanksgiving episode fittingly came out on Thanksgiving Day 2001, and despite being Thanksgiving, it still brought in a gargantuan 24 million viewers according to the Nielsen ratings. For context,
understand that even though it was from 2 decades ago, more than 2 decades ago, it's still very popular.
only 19 million people are estimated to have watched the Game of Thrones series finale, and this Friends episode was actually pretty mid ratings-wise compared to other episodes that season. To put it in a more Gen Z context, look how many TikToks end up inspiring words people use every day, and many of them don't get anywhere close to 24 million views. Well, now that I know the origin of the phrase, I guess it's time to jump in and get the meat sweats right now. I'ma do it. Oh, wait, I need to understand how this works on like like a, scientific level. It'd be crazy to dive in without first knowing all the sciencey stuff. And unfortunately, there actually hasn't been a bunch of research done into exactly how meat sweats occur, or even if they're real in the first place. Wait, what? I know, right? Are scientists too busy watching reruns of Friends to do this Nobel Prize-worthy research? That being said, there is a potential explanation for what causes those meats to make you sweat. As I'm sure you're aware, when you or I engulf food down our gullets, our digestive system kicks into overdrive to break down all that pie we shove down our pie holes. But our bodies don't break down all foods equally. Of the 3 macronutrients that we eat, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, it's a lot harder for our body to break down proteins. This is due to the fact that they're larger, more complex, and more diverse than either fats or carbs. As a result, our bodies need to spend more energy to break down our protein-rich foods, and more energy means more heat. I think you might see where I'm going with this. Because of the extra energy needed to break down proteins, eating food with high amounts of protein, like meat, causes our bodies to heat up ever so slightly. And what happens when your body heats up? You sweat. It all sounds almost too good to be true, and it just might be. Don't get me wrong, proteins absolutely take more energy and produce more heat to consume. What's not clear is if there's enough heat there to actually trigger that sweat reaction. That being said, countless people have claimed that they've gotten the meat sweats after eating large amounts of meat. As an example, take the man who probably eats more meat in a single sitting than any human alive. The other Joey Chestnut. According to him, after finishing the annual hot dog eating contest, he's sweating like a madman. He even says that some people say that his sweat smells like hot dogs. And while Chestnut says he can't smell it, he does say that his post-contest sweat is particularly sticky and greasy. Double So perhaps the meat sweats are a real thing. You just need to eat an ungodly amount of food to really see the effects. So how much food are we talking about here? Because I can't exactly eat 83 hot dogs and buns in 6 months, let alone one sitting, just to be able to achieve my meat sweats goal. Well, I think we can do some rough calculations. And by rough, I'm talking Craven the Hunter levels of rough calculation. And since it was the springboard for the let's use Joey's Thanksgiving meat sweats as an example. At the beginning of the episode, Monica reveals that the turkey that Joey ends up eating by himself is around 19 pounds or 8.62 kilograms. Now, not all of that 19-pound bird is going to be pure meat. In a typical turkey, around 60% of its weight is made up of bones, giblets, and other inedible parts that Joey doesn't end up eating. Although this is Joey Tribbiani we're talking about. But that means that of Joey's 19-pound turkey, only around 11.4 pounds of it will be making its way through his GI tract. Also, for our purposes, we're only going to be worried about the protein in the turkey, since that's the part that really has the potential to heat the body up. Your typical Thanksgiving turkey contains around 23 grams of protein for every 4 ounces, or 112 grams of turkey. That means in Joey's turkey, there'd be approximately 1,048.8 grams of protein that his body would need to digest. And since protein typically contains around 4 calories per gram, that means Joey's feast would have him eating just shy of 4,195.7 calories of pure protein alone, on average.
In one single sitting. Bruh, if you spread it out across different meals, like, I don't know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, it's more understandable, but in one single... Bruh!
For every 100 calories of protein Joey eats, around a quarter of that will be converted into heat energy that has the potential to cause the meat sweats. So we're talking around 1,048.8 calories worth of heat. But that by itself doesn't tell us much, because what would that do to Joey's body? To figure that out, we need to know how much energy it takes to heat a person up. In chemistry, this is known as an object-specific heat capacity. For something like water, that's around 4.2 kilojoules of energy per kilogram degrees Celsius. I know that was a lot of words all bunched together, but I swear it means something. So if you want to heat 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius, you need to input 4.2 kilojoules of energy. Scientists were able to calculate that number simply enough. They just heat up the water with a known amount of energy and see how much the temperature changes. Easy. But for the reasons that I hope are obvious, and if they're not, you can't boil people alive, the specific heat for humans isn't quite so easy to find. It's also the reason
Yeah, science! But, hey, don't go too far. We are humans.
me Googling how much energy to heat up a human body probably landed me on a government watch list. But if you do Google that, you'll find that the estimated specific heat of a person is around 3.5 kilojoules per kilogram Celsius. Normally, I'd be totally fine with using an estimate like this. But in this instance, I didn't have to use any estimates, because in 2022, a bunch of scientists empirically figured out the specific heat of various human tissues and found that the actual specific heat of a person is around 2.98 kilojoules per kilogram Celsius. I'm a bit too scared there to look into how they went about doing that, and I also note that this study was funded by the US government. So yeah, not only am I on their list now, but they're on mine. I'm on to you, Uncle Sam.
Nope.
Either way, we have the amount of heat that Joey is feeling from his protein-rich turkey dinner, 1,048.8 calories, or about 4,388 kilojoules of energy. According to one website I found, Matt LeBlanc, the actor who played Joey, weighed somewhere in the ballpark of 80 kilograms around the time the show's filming. We can then use this formula to plug in our values and solve for delta T to find that Joey's body temperature should have increased by 18 degrees Celsius? That's 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, the numbers don't lie. Joey should have been dead way before anyone could call Dr. Drake Ramore, but clearly he didn't die. And even people who eat just as much, if not more than him, like Joey Chestnut, are able to live eating these large quantities of meat. So what's going on here?
You see the water next to him?
For one, Joey Chestnut is a superhuman freak. I mean, it's like wondering why Goku doesn't get tired of fighting. It's because he's Goku, the GOAT. But in reality, the reason Joey didn't
an alien. Goku is an alien.
keel over or burst into flames
The Saiyan race.
comes down to how our body actually manages our internal temperature. Our bodies work very much like a thermostat you might find in your home. And just like your household thermostat, we have a set temperature that our body likes to be at, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 37 degrees Celsius. Too hot for my house, but nice for our body. If the temperature inside our house drops too low, the thermostat automatically turns on the heater, and if the temperature gets too high, on goes the AC. It'll then keep that running until the temperature returns to the one that we set it to. Similarly, if we get too cold, our body tells our muscles to constrict and shiver, and if we get too hot, then our blood vessels expand and we sweat like a sauna. That continues until, once again, we return back to that ideal temperature. For both of our Joeys, it's not like eating all that food magically shoots their temperature up by nearly 70 degrees. Otherwise, they would spontaneously combust and or die. As soon as their bodies begin to digest that protein, yes, their temperature could go up slightly, but immediately that metaphorical AC will kick in and immediately bring that temperature back to normal. Now, due to the sheer quantity of food Joey ate, that AC would be running on full blast for a long time, but it's not like it could necessarily overwhelm our body's natural thermostat. That's not to say that Joey's little 19-pound dinner couldn't prove fatal, just not from overheating, but overeating. Back in 1983, a 23-year-old woman in the UK died after eating, fittingly enough, 19 pounds of food in a 4-hour period. Pretty close to what we saw Joey do on Friends. Her stomach...
But you must recognize that by default, okay, female stomach is smaller than a male stomach. So, yeah.
was stretched to the absolute limits. And it's for reasons like that that world record organizations like Guinness require short time limits for their eating records to discourage eating beyond what the body can handle. And so, what does this mean for my goal of getting the meat sweats? Well, it's not like I'd have to eat quite as much meat as either of our Joeys did in order to potentially achieve the meat sweats. For that, we can use the same formula we used earlier, except this time, we're gonna put in our delta T and solve for the amount of energy. Also, replace Joey's mass with my super buff 185 pounds or 84 kilograms mass. Then, if I want to
try 135 kg. Sorry.
bump up my internal temperature from its usual 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, a rough benchmark for fever, I'd only have to eat 200 kilojoules worth of protein. That equates to around 47.8 calories of protein, which you can find in about 2 ounces or 57 grams of Thanksgiving turkey. That really isn't that much. And again, the math doesn't comport with reality, because in all likelihood, no matter how much meat I ate, I could never guarantee that I could force myself to get the meat sweats. Sure, some people might get a little warm after a few bites of beef, but every person is different. And if I tried to force myself to eat more and more in an attempt to overwhelm my body's natural thermostat, I'd only potentially be putting my life at risk. I mean, I can't die from a food challenge yet. Not only do I have a wife and dog to think about, I have your
don't put in the word yet.
well-being to think about as well. If I died, they'd probably get Tom to be the temporary host of Food Theory, and I would die before I let that happen, which
Oh, come on! Tom is a good friend! Both of you are the new hosts of the Game Theory and the Food Theory. Hey! The Food Theory. The Food Theorists. Sorry.
Yes, would be because I'm dead. So for now, I'm gonna have to consider my dream of getting the meat sweats officially dead. Who knows, maybe in 15 years when I do my literal final episodes like Matt did, I'll go out in a blaze of glory, no sweat. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, this isn't the only food idiom I've tackled recently. Click the video on screen now to watch me prove whether you can really cook an egg on a hot sidewalk. And as always, I'll see you next week.
Well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe. Thank you. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. Thank you. Subscribe.